Dan the Wheelman here. 2021 sees the dawn of a new day for the Acura TLX. It's all new for this year, really cool new styling, turbocharged power, new interior bits as well. Really cool looking car for sure, and I hope that the looks of this car are backed up by its dynamics. So we're gonna hit the road to find out. So stepping into the new TLX, one of the first things you notice is that gauge cluster, which is really cool, looking with the metallic kind of bezels around the gauges, or I guess gauge faces, really cool. Kind of paddle shifters, the nice widescreen display through here is good as well. Button transmission, push button transmission there, which is fine. I mean, it reduces clutter, but the only thing is all this clutter has been reduced, but there's not really that much storage up here. I mean, you've got your wireless charge pad right there, as you can see, if I point to it, there it is. You got your wireless charge pad, which I'm using for my sunglasses right now. You have your infotainment controller right here, which I will talk to you about more about that in a second. But that's really, you got a couple cup holders and you've got your storage bin, but I feel like there could be one more bin here somewhere, but because this touchpad takes up this much space, I guess I kind of got to reserve it for that, and that's too bad because the touchpad is really annoying to use. You have to hold your finger down on it to cycle through here. I have missed commands in this system more than any other system I've ever tried. This day and age, that's really surprising, and try to use Apple CarPlay with that, forget about it. It is so challenging to do. It's just so hard to be precise enough with it. And you know, you as soon as you move your finger off, the cursor disappears. So you don't really know. You don't really know where. Yeah, and all of a sudden it's up there on auxiliary input. So I don't really quite understand how this is supposed to work. I guess if you press different areas of the touchpad, you select different buttons, but it's still kind of a guess. It's kind of guesswork, which I'm not a huge fan of. So that's too bad. But otherwise in here, it's really nice. The seating position, and I'll talk more about this as we get on the road, took me some time to figure out, which surprised me. But otherwise, nice chunky flat bottom steering wheel, which I like. Cool kind of lighting through here. This lighting through here matches the contrast to red stitching there. Nice materials used throughout the cabin. A little bit too heavy on the piano black here though. Such a dust magnet, that stuff. But otherwise, a nice place to be, and a nice looking place too, and a really well put together cockpit. Great materials, great panel gaps, and so on. I'm gonna be honest with you folks, I really want to like the 2021 TLX. Does that mean I'm going to have a bias for the rest of this review? Well, you can decide that if you want, but think about it though. Think about Acura's history. They have a really proud history when it comes to their performance vehicles, and right now, this side of the NSX, the TLX A-Spec I'm driving here, really is the most performance-oriented vehicle or car they have. Think about the history. The original NSX, which would eat Ferrari's lunch, and then would allow its owner to buy a really nice lunch with all the money he saved over not buying a Ferrari. Or the original Integra, which is almost a cult classic now, especially in Type R form. That was such a popular and cool and really fun car. People are still swapping Integra engines into Civics to this day. Or even like the old CL Type S. These were cool vehicles. They were. And Acura's, obviously, they've kind of, when it comes to their cars, they've kind of lost their way. You know, I mean, I feel like the last car that really was truly successful for them was the TL, I guess the ancestor of this vehicle here, from like 2 or 3 even generations ago. Since then, it's gone through various ups and downs, been okay, but it's not been like that one was. We still haven't seen the return of an Integra. I mean, the ILX is kind of like that, you know, compact front-wheel drive car. Okay, fine, but it's still a 4-door sedan, not a 2-door, and I think people are clamoring to have that Integra come back. Heck, people also want the Honda S2000 come back. Why not make a Acura Integra and mix the Honda 2000 and the Integra in one model, maybe? Who knows? But their SUVs have done well. The RDX rather, and the ZDX. No, not the ZDX. So that was an interesting car in its own right, but kind of in the way that the Nissan Murano Cross Cabriolet is interesting, I guess. Or the Pontiac Aztec. But yeah, the RDX and the MDX, they do really well. Those are fantastic vehicles. They're really, really good. I'm a big fan of the latest RDX, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the new MDX when it arrives here later this year. So, but their cars, they've kind of lost their way, and I just like having fun cars out there to choose from. And as soon as the Integra went away, we kind of lost one. It's sort of, I guess you could say the mantle is, I mentioned the ILX before, but I guess the mantle has sort of been taken up by the Honda Civic in both an SI and Type R form, maybe. But still, that was such a cool car, that Integra. So I really hope this is good. And first impressions, lots to like. This cockpit is fantastic. I love the gauges. These metallicized gauges look kind of old school, but kind of new all at the same time. You got the widescreen infotainment display here. You have the push button transmission. Okay, it's okay. It reduces clutter. Let's just say it reduces clutter. And you got the paddle shifters too, and it's pretty good view out. Although unfortunately, and already we're starting to see a bit of an issue here. Acura/Honda, for me, they've always been known for having great seating positions in their compacts and their SUVs and their minivans. They've always had such great seating position. This one, I've had trouble getting it right. I've really had to toy with the seat back, toy with the steering wheel, telescope, really had to mess around with it, and I still don't feel quite as kind of built into the cockpit as I have in older Hondas, including my own Civic from '92. The seat itself is comfortable enough, but the seating and my headroom, not fantastic either. I can look up at hitting my bill, and that's fine, but I've kind of always got the headliner in my just in my peripheral vision there, and that kind of bugs me a little bit, even with the hat on. So that's too bad, but the view out is good, and I've got the seating position down pat for the most part now. It's just that I never used to have to with these vehicles, so there's that. But otherwise, I love the chunky steering wheel, though. I should mention that's really cool. A little bit busy on the spokes here with these buttons, but so first impressions, it's a good start, and we're gonna take it on the highway here and see what's what when it comes to the dynamics. I've been driving it so far in normal, in comfort mode, I should say, for in the city, which really loosens up the steering quite a lot, to the point where it really started to kind of get on my nerves. I couldn't wait to get it out of comfort mode. Now I'm in normal mode. Now the steering's got a little more heft to it. You can also configure the drive modes yourself if you'd like, to choose from various settings, your throttle response, steering weight, all that kind of stuff. You can actually change that. So that's kind of cool to be able to do. And of course, there's a sport mode as well, which is going to tighten everything up. So that's great. But out on the highway here, I'm liking the motor. I've got a 2-liter turbocharged engine here. That's what the TLX gets now. No more V6s here. It's good for 280 horsepower, which is a little bit less than the new IS350 F Sport Lexus that just came out. Actually, any IS350, they all have the same power. The IS300, of course, has the 4-cylinder motor, but those have V6s, which make in around 300 horsepower. So a little more power from the IS, which is always going to be a big competitor for the TLX, than this. But the IS really isn't all that new. This is an all-new vehicle now, and it looks the part. It both inside and out. They've done a lot of cool things to kind of bring the TLX into the modern era, into 2021 nicely. So the fact that I've got a little bit less power than the IS gets, that's kind of a bit of a shame. But it does, not to say it doesn't feel fast, and the front end is light because it's got a light 4-cylinder engine there. It's still a quick feeling vehicle. A little bit of turbo lag. That's kind of you deal with when it comes to turbocharged engines. But once you get it on boil, this thing can hustle out here on the highway for sure. And once you tighten up that steering, you really get that feeling like you're in a proper sports sedan. It's very planted feeling. Very almost BMW-esque, I should say. Not quite on that level. Very few vehicles out there are, but this one is close. And of course, you've got all-wheel drive, which is shuffling power around, which is nice. So this is out on the highway here, where you get to get into it a little bit. This is a nice ride. It's smooth as well. Little bit of bob over. It's not harsh, just a little more vertical movement, I think, than I like. And the dampers are set to a degree where kind of pulls me back down to the tarmac a little more harshly than I'd like. It's not terrible, but you just get that sense that they could have loosened that rebound setting just a little bit on these. And I'm not even in sport mode now. And kind of loosened it up a little bit, because every time you're going over, it's really kind of hauling you back down a little bit abruptly, but I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. And in the city, when you're not moving so quickly, really nice, and it's a nice soft ride in town as well, which is what you want when you're in those kind of conditions. Nice collection of driver aids too. I've got adaptive cruise control, I've got blind spot system. I don't have the Acura lane watch system, which is the system that looks at your blind spot, displays on your central display when you activate your right-hand turn signal. I think it's only your right-hand turn signal, so that's too bad. But I have a really good lane centering system. Usually I turn these systems off as quickly as possible. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you would have seen me talk about that. But this one, I'm not quite so inclined, because it's quite good, actually. I don't find it to be invasive. It's not ripping the wheel out of my hands every chance it gets, like the worst kind of backseat driver you can imagine. It just does gently guide you to stay in your lane. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. If I don't want, I can just turn it off by pressing this button right here. So that's a really, really kind of, it's a nice add to have. That really, really nice. And, you know, lane centering systems, when they work, it's nice to have them, because what if you want to take your hands off the wheel to unscrew your soda pop can? I'm just kidding. It's just nice to have them in general. So that's kind of cool. So not quite so inclined to turn that off. It does get a little bit too overzealous though. I've got a digital TFT display here between my gauge clusters. Yeah, it's got my trip computer there, oil life monitor, and all that kind of stuff. But every time you do anything in this car, it tells you, idle stop enabled. Okay, thank you. Brake hold. Brake hold system off. All right, thank you for letting me know that. It just tells you everything that's on here, which is kind of weird. I don't know why it needs to tell me all that. They could just put a light right here on the button. Right, some assist systems can't operate. Radar obstructed. Okay, which ones? Push to dismiss. All right, there it goes. All right. Plus, you've got all the comfort features as well. Heated steering wheel, heated seats to 3 levels, cooled seats to 3 levels. And now that I'm out here on the road driving and sampling these systems, I rather like them. And I like how the climate control system, this isn't the only car to do this, but will actually turn the seat heater down a couple degrees if it senses that it's getting too hot. I don't know what the exact number is. I'm sure there is a number that it kind of, once it hits that level of heat, it will automatically switch down, but it switches off, so it keeps you nice and comfortable the whole time here. So it's too bad the infotainment system, as we talked about before, is such a pain to use, because it looks nice and the sound system in this thing is awesome. Kind of hard to show on the video here, but it is really, really deep. I don't know how many speakers it is. I'll put that on the screen here after I check it out, but it sounds like there's a million. It's just really, I've got a really good concert hall effect in here. I mean, last time I heard something this good, I think, was in the Lincoln Continental, and that had like, I don't know, 20 speakers in it or something like that, and that was a really good sound system. And this one is really, really nice. So it's too bad that you can't really make use of it, because you spend half the time trying to select the song you want to listen to with this silly touchpad down here, which is it's so annoying. But and it doesn't help that you can't touch the display either. It's not a touch responsive display. Not that you'd want to do that too much. It's quite a far reach for the driver, but like, at least give me an option instead of having to use this pad here, which now that I'm on the road is no better. Acura, why do you do it? Why? Okay, so we've talked about how it is in the city, the new TLX. We've talked about how it is on the highway. Now we're on one of my favorite kind of bendy back roads here through the mountains just outside of Vancouver. I've got it in sport mode, both when it comes to the drive, the dynamic mode here, as well as which is activated by this dial right here, as well as the transmission too. So we're gonna see what this baby's all about. Right off the bat, the steering is nice and weighed up now that I've got it. It's more performance, and it sounds great. Listen to that. Ooh, that's good. The only thing is, even in sport mode, when I flip the paddle shifters here, it still overrides me. I can't let it get to the red line. It shifts before that, no matter what I tell it to do. So that's kind of annoying. Kind of, you know, destroys the image or the feeling, or the, I guess, the mirage that you're driving a manual a little bit. but this thing is good through here. You do feel that weight a little bit though. This is a large car and it's got that 4-cylinder engine that you kind of have to rev to get the most out of. And so it takes it a little longer to get up and going than you might get from a naturally aspirated V6, for example. But once you get those turbos on song, good forward progress here. Getting some lean through the turns. I am on winter tires. That might be partially to blame. Little more body roll than I think I would prefer from, you know, a true blue sports sedan. And whether you want to call the TLX A-Spec that or not is up to you. I don't know if I'm fully there yet on it, but it's got some good get up and go once you get it going, and you gotta love that handling. With the exception of the body roll, it's a little too pronounced for me. Again, chalk a little bit up to the tall sidewalls I've got here on these snow tires. A lower profile tire would be better for that. Good brakes though, good brakes and good grip too, even with these tires. And they got that all-wheel drive system. As I go through the trip computer here to see what my all-wheel drive system is doing, let's have a look at that. Here we go, SH all-wheel drive. So yeah. On acceleration, I get a little bit more power to the front wheels. As I come into a turn here, get some braking, turn in, outside rear wheel, getting a little more power than the inside rear wheel to push me through that corner. Once again, we're going to a right-hand turn now, and sure enough, yeah, at bottom left wheel there, or rear left wheel, getting a lot of power to rotate me through this corner. That's a responsive all-wheel drive system. It's got a great name, super handling all-wheel drive. Can't really argue with that, can you? Let's have another listen. Hear that turbo whistling as we move through the revs here. Well, that's not something I expected. And it is a proper automatic transmission here. No CVT trickery. It's a nice 10-speed auto I've got, so you get that nice punch every time you flip one of these paddles here of acceleration. Really happy about that. So I've now put the 2021 TLX to its paces in a number of scenarios, and it's been a bit of a mixed bag, to tell you the truth. Great in town, great ride there. The engine has actually been a surprising high point. When I saw it was a 2-liter turbo, I was like, okay, that can kind of go either way a lot of times, but this one is really well tuned, revs well. The transmission that it's made it to is fantastic, so big fan there. I just wish it was a better driving car when it comes to its steering and its handling. We talked a bit about the body roll on the twistier road I put it through back there. The steering is a little more woolen, a little more inert than I kind of hoped it would be, which is not something I said about many Honda Acura products over the years, if any. They've always had it really good. So a bit of a mixed bag here. It's a really good effort though, and I think it especially, and we didn't mention the styling, which I think is fantastic. The styling is top drawer, really, when it comes to the segment. It's way cooler to look at than a BMW 3 Series or even a 5 Series is. The Mercedes-Benz CE class, same story. Like, it's really, it's quite an eye catcher, this TLX, especially when painted in red like mine is. So that's a big points for it there. And that's going to draw some people to the car for sure, is that styling. And I think if they were to test it only in the city, they'd be a big fan of it. It's a really good car there. It's just not quite as athletic as I hoped it would be, unfortunately. But it's got some really great elements of athleticism, just not quite the complete package necessarily. But as far as recent performance-oriented Acura sedans go, it does well on that scale. It really does do well there, mainly because of that engine. Thanks for watching my review of the 2021 Acura TLX A-Spec. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. If not, no hard feelings, of course. Look for, first of all, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dan the Wheelman. And look for the full review and some more pics of the TLX on vicariousmag.com sometime soon. So thanks for tuning into this video, and sayonara, folks.